Welcome to Make the Grade with the Success Doctor, Stephen Green, where you'll discover actionable strategies to help your student to reach their academic goals, to excel at standardized testing, and to plan for the college admissions process painlessly. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Green.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Stephen Green here. I got a guest today, Geoff Snavley. If you are an entrepreneur, you want to focus on what we're going to talk about the next half hour or so. Geoff supports entrepreneurs. He has recently published a book called Disruptive Discovery. I'm covering the stuff that really matters. And I think you're going to really enjoy what he has to say. Let me welcome Geoff. Geoff, how are you doing?
I'm great. Good to see you, Dr. Green. Thank you for having me. It's always an honor to be a guest on any podcast. I'm continually amazed that anybody wants to hear what I have to say, but I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Hopefully you'll feel the same way when we get done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Listen, let me do a little bit of kind of a commercial for the podcast real quick. This is the Make the Grade podcast. Our mission is very simple. I want to provide entrepreneurs, I want to provide parents of students, I want to provide students themselves with actions, advice, strategies, game plan, you name it, objectives that they can use to accelerate themselves on the path to success. And what better way to have an author? When did you publish your book?
The release date was mid-October of 2021. So just a few months ago.
It's about 6 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's jump right into it. Okay. You are a business owner yourself. So you're writing this from the kind of not autobiographical, first-person perspective, right? So this is what I know about Geoff. Who wants to hear it? I do. Okay. So Geoff Snavley, where are you from, Geoff?
I live in Annapolis, Maryland. Okay. I was born in North Carolina, grew up in Delaware, and went to North Carolina State University. So I got a little northerner in me, got a little southerner in me, but I'm a midnight green bleeding Philadelphia Eagles fan.
There you go. Now we're talking.
Yeah, we have that in common, right?
We'll have to get a little Eagles fight song going before it ends.
I would love that.
Let me put that in my notes here. Eagles fight song. Okay. I think I actually got it in my queue. Okay. So listen, Geoff Snavley, a well-intentioned contrarian who passionately embraces his why of being a positive difference maker in the lives of people so that they feel motivated to become the best possible versions of themselves. I love this. A proven business leader, property investor, part owner of a commercial floor and textile care company.
Yep.
He goes beyond writing about disruptive discovery by constantly practicing his own method. He's carved out a career as a business professional first and foremost, several leadership roles, entrepreneur part-time at EBC Corporate, I take it that's your floor cleaning company, and so on. He's worked for large companies in corporate America. So the question would be, why write a book? Sounds like you're a busy guy, right? And what motivated you to write the book? And sort of part B of the question is why Disruptive Discovery? That's kind of the title.
So I'll answer the first question about why, right? Why write a book? And I did it as a way to bring my why to life. And how's that for an answer, right? I get it.
I've been there. I get it.
Well, yeah.
But explain, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So I'm a big Simon Sinek start with why guy. And if you've read Start With Why, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If not, I highly recommend anyone in your audience read Start With Why, or if you want a little, kind of toe in the water before you do that, there's a TED Talk. If you just do a search for Simon Sinek Golden Circle. Okay. Yeah, and it's that book for me was a life changer, because what he talks about is this idea of individuals and businesses finding their greater purpose, and that really resonated with me. And as a result of reading that book years ago, I went on my own sort of personal quest to craft my own why statement and my golden circle. And for me, that why statement is, and you just read it in the bio, it's to make a positive difference in the lives of people so that they feel motivated to be the best possible version of themselves. And you go, well, that sounds great, but how the heck do you do that? And so that's where the book comes in.
The book's this thick. The book's 14 inches thick.
Right. But so decades of learnings and experiences and observations. I kept notes on this stuff back, when I first started in corporate America, right out of college. I really became so interested in sort of why people, what they do, and this idea of trying to help people. And I kept notes, physical notes for a while, then electronic notes, and then you just have all this stuff in your head. And so a couple years ago, I started writing an outline, and then sort of fell in love with the writing process. And it ultimately became a book. But the reason I did it was it was a way that I could create a vehicle to bring that why to life in terms of helping people to become the best possible version of themselves. And I wrote it for, certain target audiences, business leaders, sales professionals, coaches, consultants, and really anyone who advises other people about life or work. And you think about that with your audience being entrepreneurs. I mean, what entrepreneur doesn't wear at least one of those hats, if not all of those hats?
I would argue 8 or 10, but I get your point.
So I do think, it could be a helpful resource for business owners, entrepreneurs. That was the feedback.
So can we get a little specific? Can you list maybe as many as you want, but 1 or 2 specific things that you think the book might teach somebody? I got a lot of new entrepreneurs. I got a lot of wannabe entrepreneurs. I got a lot of students that listen to this and say, it sounds so cool. It's almost this romantic notion of being an entrepreneur, running your business, until you realize it's a lot of hard work, and not always fun hard work. But the reward, the pot of the rainbow at the end of the, or whatever, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow could be worth it. But what are a few specific things? What are a few ways that your book, Disruptive Discovery, can help entrepreneurs? I don't want to give away the shop here.
But. No, I'm happy to do it, because again, the purpose is to help people. So whether that be through this conversation or actually reading the book itself, that's really what I want to do. Disruptive Discovery it's a facilitation model. It is a process for people to use as a way to sort of, break through the surface of understanding to get to the stuff that really matters, because the stuff that matters is what's actionable. And I know you talk about, to your audience, this idea of taking action and putting things into motion. And I connect with that. And to me, in order to do that, you got to make sure you're focusing on the right things. And those are the things that matter. So again, it is a process, and that's what the book walks you through. And it starts with establishing trust. And what is the definition of trust? Because I think trust is a very, very, very misunderstood concept. So we talk about what is trust? How do you build trust? How do you maintain trust? How do you rebuild it if it's lost? And that's kind of the overarching theme throughout the book. And then it takes you through this idea of surface discovery, because you do need to understand those things that are on the surface. And how do you do that? There's certain types of questions you ask, listening skills. But then from there, to be able to take that and shift into disruptive discovery, to transition into that type of process that really does start to uncover those things.
What do you mean by that? I don't know if that's something you coined yourself, or if that's a kind of a business term, but what do you mean by that? What is your definition of disruptive discovery?
Yeah, so that's, one of the things I do early in the book is I give my definition of discovery, which is just to sort of uncover something new. And then I talk about disruption. And a lot of people look at disruption as a negative thing, whether it be a natural disaster or, an annoying coworker in a meeting who's being disruptive. And growing up as kids, teachers didn't use the term disruption in a positive way.
It
But
was
think
usually
about,
something that got in the way of something productive, right?
yeah, but think about, throughout in our world, all the amazing things that are the result of some type of a disruptive breakthrough, whether it be, take the internet, for example, is a great example of that. All the things that Apple has done with a lot of their innovations, those are disruptive technologies, and certainly, very, very positive, right? So the idea of disruptive discovery, of uncovering those things that are new, but that can make a difference, that can make an impact, that's really the idea of it. And the heart of the book is what I call the 10 questions that matter, right? And each of those 10 questions has a chapter dedicated to it. And it talks about, what is the question, has kind of a setup, and then why would you ask it? When would you ask it? How would you ask it? And then what are some examples of the question and what it might look like in practice? So that's 10 of the chapters, or it's a deeper dive into each of those 10 questions that matter. But for a business owner, for an entrepreneur, for a leader, this process, this method is really a way to help other people, whether it be with problem solving, whether it be that you're trying to help them improve in a development area. It's a method you use with them to help them uncover those things that are going to take them from where they are, their current state, to where they want to be, their aspirational state. And so that's, I'm probably telling you more than you want to know, but that is the idea, the concept, the model in a nutshell.
Well, here's what I hear a lot, because I have a workshop which is entitled "A Day in the Life of an Entrepreneur," and there may be some ways we can partner together on this, Geoff. But the workshop really addresses something I know you're familiar with, which is what do you really got to do in a day? If you're an entrepreneur, you got to wear, as you like to put it, and I agree with you, a lot of hats.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to be an accountant. Sometimes you got to be a bookkeeper. Sometimes you got to be a scheduler. Sometimes you got to do promotion. Sometimes you got to be a social media manager. Sometimes you got to be an engineer. Sometimes you got to be a banker. I mean, there's all these things you got to do. Some people enjoy the process, but don't really enjoy all these other things they have to do. Now, until they can afford to delegate or hire other people, or it isn't like their sister-in-law to be their accountant. Not that there's anything wrong with sisters-in-laws. I'm just saying you want a professional, because that's what I tend to happen. Who did your books? Well, my sister had a friend, and she took an accounting course in college, and she did my taxes for me. I mean, that's not really what I'm talking about. But how important is it to, and this I think is where there's a challenge for entrepreneurs and a lot of people, maintain the passion for your vision, your sort of entrepreneurial spark, but still cover enough of the bases of the, I want to call it grunt work, for lack of a better term, that you just need to do to make it happen. Because you're always balancing this, right? And some of it is more fun than others, and some of it's more exciting than others. But so is this something you address? I mean, you've got management level stuff, you've got leadership thing you got to do, you got coaching aspects, but then you also have, I'm going to call it administrative stuff, right? So how do you think that fits into the whole picture here?
Yeah. So throughout my career, I've had a chance to spend a lot of time with many different entrepreneurs and business owners, and specifically small business owners. I started off in corporate America, working for large companies. And I was very fortunate at a young age to be working with a lot of small business owners, which ultimately led into the relationship that led to me becoming a small business owner. I'm part owner of I'm partners with someone who I used to support when I was on the corporate side of our business. And he and I, developed a great working relationship back then. We maintained it for many, many years. He's one of my closest friends, and we are now business partners. But throughout that, on the corporate side and on the small business side, I've been exposed to a lot of different scenarios, and I've seen people run their businesses in different ways. And what I've noticed, the companies that the owners, the entrepreneurs that seem to really get it are the ones that understand where they offer unique value in their companies. It's like, that Michael Gerber thing with the E-Myth, where he talks about work on your business. Yeah, work on your business, not
in your business, right?
Yeah, because, I mean, with all these hats we're talking about, you really have to, those hats, their roles, their responsibilities and activities, tasks, all these things. But you got to figure out, where do you possess the most impactful skills, competence, expertise, and whatever else that can really move things forward in your business. And to your point, the magic happens when there's alignment between those things that you're really good at, that you really do add the most unique value, and your passion. And what I would tell any business owners, once you identify that, embrace it, lean into it. But all those other roles, hats, whatever you want to call them, that don't fit that unique value you provide, you got to invest. You got to find people.
And I agree with you on that.
You need to hire for those roles, or whatever resources it takes. And I know some business owners that they're great with sales and marketing. And you know what? That's what they should do. They should be the face of their company in that way. But they need to make sure that they've got the operations and administrative support.
Right. That's the key.
Or the other side, I know some business owners, man, that's their strength. They are good at operations. They're good at numbers. And they for whatever reason, they've said, you know what? I'm also going to be the sales and marketing presence for my business. Not only are they not good at it, but they spread themselves too thin. And I understand that to invest and hire these other positions, it costs money. And it might mean for a certain amount of time, you'll make less net profit, right? But you do have to take that one step backwards in order to take 2, 3, 10, 50 steps forward. So that would be advice I would give to any entrepreneur. Find out your unique value. Just lean into that, but you got to be willing to invest in all those other things that need to get done by finding great people and supporting them.
Fantastic advice. It really is. Because having coached entrepreneurs, and sometimes they're resisting, I want to do this, I want to do this. Hey, my guest, Geoff Snavley. This is the Make the Grade podcast. Your host, Steve Green. We're all about giving you actions, strategies to accelerate your journey to success. And I hope you've already gotten a lot of them today. Geoff, when you meet with a business owner, and you're coming in, you're all fired up. You can tell just hearing you believe in what you're doing. What's the kind of reception you get? Are they like, oh my God, Geoff, I can't believe I didn't think of this already. Where you've been my whole business life. Sometimes people push back because they resist. What's been your experience?
Well,
because I've gotten both ends of it. I've gotten every end of the spectrum on this.
Yeah. One of the things, and this was a bit of my learning curve transitioning from corporate America into the small business world, that all the things that I thought were important in corporate America, they don't always translate to small businesses. And I've realized that in a small business, and what I love most about it is you get to wake up every day and focus on what does matter. And for me, in my business, we're a service business. We are a commercial floor and textile care company. I know that if we every day take care of our customers and our people, everything else falls into place. And you go, yeah, well, that's nice to say. What exactly does that mean? I would tell you, it when you see it, it has become very apparent to me over the years when you're working on something that doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And that's the litmus test. Is this helping our customers? Is this helping our people? If the answer to those questions is yes, keep going. But what I learned in corporate America, in a lot of cases, you would spend a lot of time on things that when you would ask those questions, it was either a maybe or a no, but I need to do it anyway. You could, as long as you look good doing something, that's what mattered. And that doesn't matter. So back to your question about, interacting with other small business owners or business owners and entrepreneurs, what I've realized is that being pragmatic, being realistic and not worrying. It's doing what you know is right and not really being so concerned with the way it's done or how it looks. And that's really been very refreshing for me over the years. Because I'm an interesting entrepreneur in that I didn't start a business from scratch. I invested my way into it, which in a lot of ways is good because I've got a unique perspective and even how I see the business and having a different type of. I was institutionalized for many years, working for large corporations, and to be able to bring that into a small business environment has had its advantages.
I was going to ask you, how did that help you?
Yeah,
because you had a structured background.
Yep. And one of the things you learn a lot about, there was a tremendous amount of training and learning. I had many mentors throughout that time, but you learn a lot about processes, and you learn a lot about you learn a lot about ways to get things done in a very structured way.
That's the corporate side.
Yeah.
Because they're all about operational consistency.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's it. So, but what I've been able to do over the years is be able to take some of that and distill it into a more manageable, digestible way for our employees. Because there are, within our business, we have people that have been with us, 10, 15, 20 plus years. We're a 30 plus year old business. We've got people that have been with us almost the whole time. They are small business people, because they like to focus on the customer and their coworkers. So you got to find a way to take these processes and techniques and methods that will make a difference in the business, but make it something they understand, make it something that they realize will make a difference. And you're not just filling out a spreadsheet or completing a process because you were told to do so. It needs to be things that are actionable, things that are meaningful, and things they'll ultimately help.
What advice? This might be one of our last questions, but what advice would you give somebody who isn't on the journey yet? Okay, maybe we got a high school student or a college student, and they're still in that process, but they know they got the juice. They know, hey, when I get out, I want to do something on my own. I want to at least give it a shot. Because most of what we've talked about here is maybe focused on people that are already in the game, as it were.
Right.
These are already people swimming with the sharks, as they say.
Yeah.
But what advice would you give somebody before, okay, if you're going to go this path, what do you really have to consider? Or what do you really need to know? Or maybe something you could take a class in, or maybe a certain type of mentor like you or me that they could search out. But what advice would you give a wannabe business owner / entrepreneur based on your experience and your perspective? And now your stature as a published author.
Well, so I'd sort of come full circle to where we started. I think finding your why is so important, and not just your own why and your own greater purpose, but really even with this idea of becoming an entrepreneur, you need to ask yourself why. What is it about being a business owner or an entrepreneur that appeals to you, and why? And I think people, that is a difficult question to answer, I think, for anyone,
and it's the moving target. What it might be day one might not be the same a year later or even 3 months later as you get into the process.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, I guess it could change because, my why, if I had gone through and done my why statement in Golden Circle in my 20s, might, looked a lot different than it did in my 40s.
And I don't think there's anything, I'm not saying wrong. There's nothing unexpected about that as people go through different stages of their careers and they get different skill sets. Yeah. I think sometimes that's disturbing to people because they want stability, they want consistency, which is important. But when you're an entrepreneur, you got to be agile to at least to a degree. You got to be able to kind of take what's thrown at you
Yeah, so and these businesses come about for a lot of different reasons. So if someone has like a really unique, differentiated idea, whether it be a product or service that they want to innovate, introduce, create, that will in many cases take you down a natural path towards entrepreneurship and having your own business. But if you have a career path that is something other than that, but you have this thought of, well, I want to work for myself. You hear that a lot from people. I want to work for myself, or I want to be my own boss. I don't want to work.
I don't want somebody telling me what to do.
That's exactly right. So what I would challenge any of those people feeling that way, that is when you need to do some self-reflection and really find out what is your why. Because if you're choosing a career path, because there's something you're trying to achieve with that profession, with that path that you're on, it might be that working for a company, being an employee or being a leader within a company is the best way to deliver on that why. Or it might be that it's better to start your own business and do that. But I think that I can only talk about myself and my own experiences. The training, the learning, the relationships, the mentors that I got at a very young age, man, I didn't know what I didn't know, and those people and all that support and all those resources, I use that stuff every day, now. And I'm so grateful for it, and I think I'm a better, part owner of a business.
So here I think is the take home message. If you're a young entrepreneur or a young want to be entrepreneur, trust me and trust Geoff. It is invaluable to get good mentoring.
Yes.
To find good role models, to find people, leaders, whatever for noun you want to use, I'm going to say verb, whatever noun you want to use, that you either want to model yourself after or will take you under the wing and teach you. It will shortcut years of time. It'll save you gazillions of dollars going down the wrong trail. And I presume there's also a mindset, which we're not really going to get into heavily, but I think that's where you're coming from in this book a little bit as well.
Yeah.
From our conversation.
Yeah, when it's interesting. I remember when I started writing the book, and my coach, agent, whatever you want to call it, the individual that helped me sort of take a manuscript and turn it into a finished book. He asked me at one point early on, he said, well, what are your goals with the book? And I said, well, yeah, but I said, I'm not doing this to sell books. He's like, what do you mean? I said, well, I gave him the whole spiel I just gave you about my why and really, using this as a way to make a positive difference in people's lives. And he said, I've never talked to an author that wasn't.
Who writes a book just to be positive?
Yeah, because I said something like, I don't care if I sell any books, but it was really good because he said, well, look at it this way: the more books you sell, the more people you can help, because otherwise it's a tree fall.
That's exactly it.
I'll
tell you this: I one of the things I do in my business is I help people develop products, books, ebooks, audiobooks. And repurpose them. So if you write a regular book, you might want to turn it into an audiobook. These are things I do with people.
Sure.
And I say, there are 3 things you can do to capitalize on this. One is increase your stature as a subject matter expert. Just writing a book.
Yep.
All of a sudden you're an expert. Well, Geoff, you got a book. Oh my God, you must know what you're talking about. I mean, I assume you do, but it's a perception. 2, it builds brand. Okay. Builds brand. And 3, you can monetize it. And it may actually be in that order. Selling books is not easy. Believe me, I sold a lot of them, and it's not like selling Girl Scout cookies in front of the church. I mean, you got to convince people it's worth $10, $20. People, I'm not selling my book for a lot of money. You got to convince people it's worth taking home. But the brand building, the stature, the elevation of maybe you in a certain circle, that is really invaluable. So think about this, entrepreneurs, as a way to elevate what you're doing. Geoff, anything you want to bring up that we haven't gotten to yet before we go into our wrap up here?
There's one thing I wanted to mention, because you touched on we both talked about mentors. You touched on it a second ago. one of the greatest learnings I ever got from a mentor. This was a couple decades ago. It's after I had gotten my first quote unquote management job, and he pulled me aside and he said to me, "You're struggling with this. Why?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm in my 20s, and a lot of people on my team, they're older than me. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, the idea of being a manager really made me uncomfortable." And he said, "Look at it this way." He said, "You manage the business, you lead the team, and you coach the individual."
Nice.
And that has stuck with me for over 20 years.
Say that again, because that was really good. Say it
You
again.
manage the business, you lead the team, and you coach the individual. And if you think about each of those roles, they are incredibly different, right?
Can be, for sure. Yes.
And knowing when and how to do each of those things is so, if you can figure it out, it's powerful, because you really can't manage people, right? You coach people and you lead teams and you're managing the business, and it's not semantics. That's not a play on words. I'm not trying to be tricky.
No, but it's just completely true. And people are not going to follow somebody they don't believe is not a good leader and can't help them.
Yeah,
they're not going to follow somebody down a path that they don't want to go to.
Right. And I mentioned this because if I'm thinking about the people in your audience and whether they're, in the process of starting a business or they're down the road, like we've been talking about, that is such an important concept, because ultimately you are going to be hiring people and employing people and dealing with people. And I think you need to be able to distinguish, what is your relationship and role with those individuals versus, the teams they're part of within your organization. And then ultimately, how should you be looking at the business, relationship that you have. So yeah, I think that is a really important concept for
somebody told me a long time ago when I started my business, but let me say this first. Recognize people that might be the best mentors for you before you start your business might not be the same best mentors for you 2 years in.
Yeah.
And they might be totally different than 5 years in. And they might all be different than 12 years in. As you develop, evolve, and you grow as an entrepreneur, you're going to need to adjust where you get your advice from, because you're going to look. You don't want to take advice from somebody who never had a business when you're a 5-year. So you got to constantly find people. It's like playing any sports. Like if you play tennis, you always want to play with somebody better than you.
Yeah.
You want to learn guitar or whatever, you got to learn from somebody who's better than you. And in mentorship, it's the same thing. In coaching, and you got to be a little careful. You get advice. But Geoff, where do people get your book? How do they get your book?
The easiest way to do it is on Amazon. I have a website. My website is disruptivediscovery.com. And that,
what a shock, considering that's the title of the book.
Yes. If you want to learn more about
very clever. Great. See, the guy's a marketing genius.
Yeah.
So it's on Amazon. They could search disruptive technology.
Disruptive
Discovery. Disruptive Discovery. And you got a site as well.
Yep. And
anything else you want to plug? Like, do you have a workshop? Do you have a giveaway? Something you want to go ahead?
Hey, I clean floors for a living, right? And so again, this whole book was not a means to an end. It is not going to help me clean more floors.
Yeah, but you have positioned yourself in a role like it or not, as a semi-mentor, right? So let's say somebody reads your book and they say, "Man, this guy Geoff, he has helped me like no tomorrow." Maybe you might want to consider that. Hey, this is the Make the Grade podcast. My guest, Geoff Snavley, author, business owner, experienced mentor to many. Geoff, you want to play everybody's favorite game on the Make the Grade podcast? The Fave 5.
Okay, I love it.
I think I know the answer to one already, but I don't want to, no spoilers here.
All right.
So I'm going to throw out a topic. You just tell me the first thing comes around, your favorite thing. Okay.
My
start
favorite,
with an easy one. Your favorite thing. I'm going to say something. You tell me your favorite thing in that category.
Well, I'll say the cliche thing and say my family, right? But
no. I haven't given you a category yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that.
By the way, I forgot to mention this to bio. Geoff's married. He's got a beautiful wife. Is it Catherine or Kathleen?
Catherine, yeah, and my daughters Ella and Alice.
2 little girls. How old are they? How old are your
both teenagers, so 13 and 15.
That should be a nice, peaceful household there.
Yeah.
And no cats, dogs, just
Oh yeah, we got cats, a dog, we got it all. We've had
you are
guinea
living
pigs.
the American dream, my friend.
Okay.
I got two boys. I did not raise girls, but I got neighbors who did, and they're pulling their hair out sometimes. Anyway, but it's all beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
By the way, they're coming up pretty soon, and you're gonna need some SAT prep, maybe. Talk to me. Anyhow, okay.
Keep in mind,
Ready?
yeah.
The first one's easy. Color.
Purple.
Oh, purple. Purple. Somebody said that a few days ago. Food or dessert?
Oh man.
You're in Maryland.
Well, I know, but I love
North Carolina.
I love my sweets. I love decadent sweets. So you give me,
you got one purple red velvet cake, something like that. You go.
Yeah, I mean, just the more decadent, the better. Like these days, you know what I love these days with one of my daughters, we get crumble cookies. Have you had crumble cookies? Have you heard of those?
I don't know. It sounds like a lot of sugar, but tell me about it.
Yeah, check out crumble. They make these
crumble cookies,
rich, decadent cookies, but cookies, brownies, anything sweet.
We were one time on a cruise, and I forget the ship. I think it was the Summit. I think it was the Celebrity Summit, but I might be wrong. And they had a specialty restaurant on the cruise, and you had to make a reservation to be in this restaurant. And there was this dessert called the chocolate bomb, but it was in French.
Yeah,
like Le Bombe Chocolat, maybe. And you actually had to tell them that morning if you wanted. It took 9 hours to make this dessert.
Oh yeah.
It was like a ball of chocolate the size of a softball. I mean, it was like as big as your head. And then there was like a hole in the top, and they poured like orange liqueur in and brandy, and then they lit it on fire in front of you. So it melted, kind of like it looked like a volcano, and it melted. And then the chocolate, it was decadent with like all capital letters. That
sounds awesome. You know, I'm convinced there might not be anything better on this planet than like a Dairy Queen blizzard.
Keeping it simple. There you go. All right, this might be a little more time. Favorite place to vacation?
Oh, we spent a lot of time in Lewis, Delaware. We've got investment properties there. We love Lewis, Delaware. So
I always think of Lewis. Having grown up in New Jersey, that's the other end of the ferry.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Louis Ferry. Yeah, actually, I was at a wedding. It's a nice shore town, nice beach.
The places I hope my favorite place to vacation is where we haven't been yet. We really want to go to Alaska, and we want to do a South Africa trip at some point. So those are. I hope I will be able to answer that question differently one day.
Now, you told me in your bio here you were accused of having really bad taste in music. So what's your favorite kind of music?
All right. Well,
what do you got?
I'll tell you down here. Kind of quick story. So when I was a kid, my mother was the biggest Neil Diamond fan on the planet. I mean, she loved Neil Diamond.
It's okay. It's pop.
So, but when I was 5 years old, she took me to the record store back when there were record stores, and she let me pick out an album, my first album ever, Kiss, Love Gun, right? And then from there, I went on to get every Kiss album.
Neil
I
Diamond,
went to my first Kiss concert when I was 8 years old. So if you were to take Neil Diamond and Kiss and put them in a blender, that's the music stuff that goes on in my head.
I'm trying to think that would even sound like.
Oh yeah, no, So, but the 80s hair bands, the glam rock, that was
Poison.
Oh yeah, man, Poison, Motley Crue, Bon Jovi. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware. That's true. That's still top 40 music in Wilmington. I'm pretty sure.
Well, it probably may be. All right, there you go. Next one, bucket list. You kind of already said it, but what's on your bucket list? Alaska, which is
for trips. Yeah, for sure.
About professional. How about like just life? Anything else? Anything you really need to do?
I've never been a bucket list person for whatever reason. I just that has
let me give you an easy one. Cats or dogs? That's a tough. I thought that'd be easy.
No, because my natural inclination would be to say a dog.
That's usually what guys say.
I know, and maybe that's why I'm fighting my inner masculinity. But we got cats a couple years ago, And I got to tell you, I enjoy those cats mostly because I see the joy that they bring to my daughters and my wife. But I think I've become a cat person if I had to pick between the two.
Well, you're talking to the proud parent of 2 cats. So
yeah,
not they don't like dogs. I love dogs too, and I donate a lot of time and funds to animal shelters. Hey, here's a tough one. Here's a tough one for you.
I like that.
What's your favorite podcast?
Make the grade.
Hey, oh, correct answer.
Yeah, and if I can give a shout out, another I've done.
What is it?
Yeah, so Workplace Innovator, host is Mike Petrusky. He's become a really good friend of mine, and I think he's doing great things for the workplace. And that's very important for my business because those are our clients, people working in commercial office buildings and within the workplace. But I think that is a fantastic podcast.
Dude, I can't think of the name of it, but there's a Jimmy Buffett song about people who go to Kiss concerts.
Is that right?
Yeah, but I can't think of the title. I can't think of the name of the song.
I was 8 years old. That's bad parenting. I went with my parents they were at the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
The Spectrum, man.
Yeah,
you're going way back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, rock and roll all night. Hey, yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. My niece, remember Brandy? Now, this is like pop. No. It's an artist named Brandy. It was like a girl. And by the way, went to the senior prom with Kobe Bryant when he was at Lower Merion. So Brandy was doing a concert tour of malls around the United States. Instead of being in the arenas like the Spectrum or wherever, she was in malls. So who's going to go to see Brandy? Like these 12-year-old girls. So my sister calls me up. She says, my niece, she's my daughter, who's my niece, wants to go to see this concert. Can you take her? I'm like, sure. I don't spend much time with my niece. It'd be great. Because my sister didn't want to go. Basically. So she drops her off. Well, where's the concert? It was at East Brunswick Mall in New Jersey. At the time I was at Rutgers. I was in New Brunswick. I was working at Rutgers. We go, there's like 5,000 screaming 12 and 13-year-olds. Screaming. I'm not even saying I'm someone like shrieking, like earplugs needed. Her big hit, there was a couple of them, but one was Think I'm Alone Now, which was actually an older, like Tommy James sang the song, Think I'm Alone.
Yeah, and didn't Tiffany do that song too?
Yeah, a lot of people have done it, but that was her big hit. So she comes out, there's like hype and they're screaming and yelling. She comes out, sings like 3 songs, and everybody's like, that's it. That wasn't my first concert, my niece's first concert. So every time we see her, we're always talking about that. I always say, does your taste changed in music yet?
Yeah. Well,
let's close out with this here, folks. You're going to have to suffer through this, whether you like it or not. Hang on a second. Here we go. Hang on.
There we go. On the road to victory. I feel like I'm at the link.
There you go. See? You don't hear that on every podcast, folks. No, especially after you get the kind of information you got here from Geoff. Geoff, thanks for having some fun with me here, but more importantly, thanks for really bringing some value. Please reach out to Geoff if you got questions. Believe me, you do not want to take this trip alone if you don't have to. When you got people who are providing information and providing mentoring and providing experience like he is and a lot of other people do, including myself, take advantage of it. Buy his book, support it, but more importantly, learn from it. Geoff, anything you want to say in closing? I'm going to give you the last word here because I talk too much.
Thank you so much. This was an honor. I enjoyed this tremendously.
Yeah, there we go. You're welcome. I'm glad to have you. Hey, folks, Make the Grade podcast, Dr. Stephen Green. Back at you next time with another fascinating guest, or maybe just me. Who knows what order this will come out in. But Geoff, thanks again. I appreciate you taking some time with me. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Make the Grade with the Success Doctor, Stephen Green. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe. For more resources and support, please visit makethegrade.net.